Well, how y'all doing, YouTube? About 45 minutes till the Georgia game, so I figured why not do a beer review. And since it's starting to get a little bit cool out, I know I got my long sleeves on, but it's still like, here in Georgia, it's still like 60-something degrees. But anyway, for a lot of the country, it's starting to get cooler, so I figured why not review a couple darker beers. So I figured let's pick a stout. So I went ahead and, spoiler alert, you know, if you're wondering if this is a good or a bad beer, which if you're already watching this video, I'm pretty sure you know the answer to that. But anyway, spoiler alert, I figured why not review my favorite stout, Founder's Breakfast Stout. And one thing, normally I don't really care about can or bottle design. You know, if it tastes good, it tastes good. But kudos for the Founders Brewing Company. This, you see this on a shelf, it stands out. Like literally, I'm in the beer section. First time I saw this, I was in a beer section, and I'm walking around, you know, underage, had someone buying for me, and I'm like, beer bottle with a baby on it? You know what? Fuck it, we're getting that. So, you know, I guess ad people work, or at least whoever designed this this bottle, because I was just like, okay, I got to see what the baby beer is about. Anyway, as far as really good stouts go, world-renowned stouts, I may say, the two I always hear of is the Founder's Breakfast Stout and Old Rasputin, which is a Imperial Russian Stout. And there's a dude with a chainsaw if you can't hear. You know, the beauty of being outside, but I like the way the camera looks outside better than inside, so we're gonna go with it. But anyway, can't find Old Rasputin in North Georgia, at least. I mean, I haven't really looked that hard for it. That's a Russian Imperial Stout. This is an Imperial Coffee Stout, Founder's Breakfast Stout, 8.3, you know, ABV, 60 IBUs, and for such a fancy beer, believe it or not, it has adjunct. Or at least, I don't know if you can call it adjunct, but it has additives. You have two different types of coffee. You have chocolate, I'm going to assume dark chocolate based on the flavor. We'll get to that in a minute. And you have flaked oats. Anyway, let's take a look at it. And the sun's not out, but even if it was, you still couldn't see through this beer. This beer is what you, the color of this beer resembles the oil when you buy a used car, you know, that has like 200-something thousand miles on it, you drain it. It's black. You got a, I want to say khaki, almost like a cardboard colored head on it. I didn't pour it very aggressive, but even if I did pour it aggressive, you wouldn't get too much of a head. You know, that's what happens when you drink higher ABV products. You have less head mostly, and also, you know, stouts, at least for me, tend not to give a bunch of head, you know, unless they're like a nitro stout. Let's take a whiff. Oh God, really good coffee is mainly what you get. You get like a hint of chocolate, maybe a hint of like vanilla, but oh God, just really good coffee. Now when I mean by really good coffee, I don't mean Starbucks. I mean like you go to a coffee house kind of deal, like a local coffee place, or like almost an espresso. It's like a coffee with a little bit of a punch. I'm not smelling any hops, no alcohol. I'm just smelling straight up coffee. And I don't drink a lot of coffee now, but back in the day, when I mean back in the day, I mean like when I was in my teens, and even before that, I grew up drinking a lot of coffee, so this should be good. Ooh, that is very good. I am gonna admit this probably ain't the proper temperature. I let it sit out for about 10 minutes. Stouts and porters you should drink, you know, around room temperature, you know, a little bit cooler than that. This is a tad on the colder side, but you still get plenty of flavor. And I've drank it plenty of times, so I can tell you what you get. The main thing, you get coffee. And you do have a kind of a bitter punch with it. It's not like a hoppy punch, though. It's not. In fact, you can't taste hops in this. At least I can't. But the bitterness comes from like the black coffee taste and the dark chocolate. And I'm definitely getting both here. But the main thing is almost like a, excuse me, has a note similar to drinking espresso, excuse my pronunciation there, or lack thereof. Oh God, super freaking smooth. Now this is definitely a heavier beer. If you're used to drinking Michelob Ultra all day, this might take a minute to kill, but for me, I'm a fan of the flavor. I like I said, coffee, a little bit of chocolate, very smooth. That probably has to do with the fact that there's flaked oats in here. And I'll be honest, this is going to make me sound like a drunk, but if I could drink this for breakfast every day, I would. Now, the ABV being 8.3, it's probably not a good idea to drink a couple of these and go out and, you know, go to town or anything, but hell, maybe one a day, then, you know, you'll probably still pass a breathalyzer, excuse me. But this is, oh, it's so smooth. And the flavor for me, it's kind of mild. Now, a lot of people might look at this and go, oh, that's mild. Well, it's just because I'm a big coffee drinker, but it's so smooth, but it's complex. I don't even know why I said mild. For me, like I said, I like the flavor, so my brain just goes, oh man, that's so good. And it is very good. And also, you get a little bit of a char taste with it. I don't know if this is aged in barrels or not, but if they use a charred barrel, that would make sense. You get a little bit of a burnt taste. Now, I have heard of people cellaring these, let them sit for about, you know, a year, and then cracking them open. And I would assume if you cellared it, it would mild out that char flavor. That might be the only part of this beer that I'm not like just super enthused about, even though I don't mind it. The little bit of char I'm not going to complain about. You know, it adds more character. And as far as, you know, the aftertaste, this beer does sit, you know, a little heavier on the palate, which to be expected for a heavier beer. Also, nice lacing on the glass. That is beautiful. But you do get a little bit of that like coffee bitterness. Just kind of sits there on the side of the palate. But besides that, you know, it's somewhat of a clean finish. I don't know. It's hard to describe this beer just because I like it so much. So to break it down takes a little bit of a mental gymnastics for me, at least, because my brain just takes this and goes, you know what this is? My brain, the main description that's coming up for me is, oh, it's delicious. I just want to say this is delicious. Drink it, buy it. It's great. But if I was going to go ahead and give this a rating, I would have to give it a 9.5 out of 10. You're probably going, well, you love it so much, why don't you give it a 10? And the neighbors let their dogs out. Why don't you give it a 10? And I don't know. I don't think I'll ever drink a 10, but you know, 9.75 out of 10. This is probably the closest I'll ever get to having a beer that is truly a 10. Anyway, make sure to like, rate, and subscribe if you care to. If you don't, whatever. Make sure to drink a good beer, because this whole fucking week with the election, it just wore me out. And of course, make sure to kill your local pedophile. Have a good night and pleasant tomorrow.